In this video, I'm going to be covering how to make a scatter plot with connecting lines. And just a reminder that I am using Excel 2010 on my machine, but it looks pretty similar in other versions of Excel, but might be slightly different than what you see on my screen. So you use scatter plots with connected lines for data where you have continuous numeric values on the x-axis. And in our class, this is typically going to be time on the x-axis. So that's a numeric value and it's continuous data set. So you're usually tracking over a long period of time. So the first example I'm going to look at is an example where we're tracking a child's height over time. So in that case, time would be on the x-axis and child height would be on the y-axis. And so that's the data I have here. So you always want your x-axis data, in this case time, on the left, and your y-axis data, in this case child's height, on the right side. And so you highlight that data, those values. You go to Insert, and you go to Scatter, click on Scatter, and I want to do a line this time. So I'm going to go over to the smooth connected line. You could also, depending on what your data was, use straight lines, but for this I want a smoothed out line. So I click on that and it creates a graph, again, where I have those year values evenly spread across the x-axis and then the inches value for children's height. And so now I want to put in my labels, so I click on the graph. Remember, if you're not clicked on it, you don't get these options. If you're clicked on it, you get the options. I go to Chart Layout, and I want to put in a primary horizontal title, and I want to put in, oops, let me click back on my graph, and I want to put in a vertical title as well, and then I also want a chart title. And so I can edit these. So child height over time for my chart title, my axis title in this case is time in years, and my y-axis title is height in inches. And now I've got a lovely graph. And because I only have one line, I don't need this, so I just click on it, and then when you hit backspace, it goes away. And that's just because I only have one line on this graph. I don't really need to have that additional label. All right, so that's a graph with just one line, again with a scatter plot with a smooth connected line. Now, sometimes you want to have a graph that has two lines on it. And this would be when you have two conditions that you're testing over time. So in the photosynthesis lab, we had an example of this where you were tracking time, and then you had the condition where you measured bubbles at 50 centimeters and the condition where you measured bubbles at 25 centimeters. So let me just pull this over so you can read what I've got here. So one condition is bubbles produced at 50 centimeters, one condition is bubbles produced at 25 centimeters, and these were both over a 5-minute period. So again, once I've got my x-axis data on the left and then my y-axis data for both conditions in the next two columns, notice I don't have to re-enter the x-axis data. So 3 total columns. This is the x-axis for both of these y values. I just highlight that data and then again go to Insert, Scatter, and again I want smooth lines, and that's going to create a graph with 2 lines. So sorry, let me get my other graph out of the way here so we can just focus on this one. So again, I want to click on the graph. If I'm not clicked on it, I don't get those options. So I click on it, click on Layout. I need a chart title. I need my axis titles. And so I can edit my chart title. So bubbles produced at different distances over time. And then my axis title is time in minutes. And then my y-axis title is bubbles produced. Oops. All right. So there's my title and my axis titles. So we've done that over the course of the semester. Now, what maybe you don't know how to do yet is how do I get in and edit this? Because it says Series 1 and Series 2, but I need this to be descriptive. I need it to say what the red line is and what the blue line is. And so to edit that, you click on the legend. So again, let me show you. I'm clicked off. Now I click on that legend box, that's what it's called, and I'm going to right click. And when I right click, I come up with some options, and I'm going to click on select data now. So right click, then click on select data. And what that opens up is this box. And notice on the left it says legend entries. So that's what's going to go into the legend box. And it default names the lines Series 1 and Series 2. And so we want to go in and edit those names. So I click on Series 1, and I'm going to hit edit. And so Series 1 is my first set of y-axis values. So that's the bubbles produced at 50 centimeters. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could just type into this. And if I hit OK, it changed that series name, and you can see that it changed it in the legend box. The other way to do it, when you have set up your Excel spreadsheet the way I have, is to again right click, then click on select data, and then it brings up this box again, and there's legend entries on the left. And so let me do Series 2 the other way. So click on Series 2. I want to rename Series 2, so I go to Edit. And instead of typing the name, I've already got it typed over here. So I'm going to click on this button, which lets me go choose a cell inside of the spreadsheet. So I click on this, and it comes up with that blank, and so I don't need to type anything, but I just move over here and click, whoops, wrong box, click on this box, which is the box that has bubbles produced in it. So it's choosing this box, then I click this button again, and it's entered into here. Whatever is in this cell will now be what my series name is. So I'll hit OK. And notice that it came up with bubbles produced at 25 centimeters because that was the text that was in that cell. So if you've already typed it one time, that's a shortcut to not have to type it again. So now I click OK, and now I've got my full legend filled in properly. So now I know that my blue line is for bubbles produced at 50 centimeters, and my red line is for bubbles produced at 25 centimeters. And so this is a complete graph that's fully labeled with appropriate axis titles. And then my next step would be to copy. So right click on the graph, oops, choose copy, and then remember that you can go into any Word document. So after I've copied it, and then I right click again, and I can hit paste, and that puts my graph into my Word document. And so just remember that for Lab 8, you are not doing this experiment that I made a graph for. For your lab report, you are making a graph for your different colors of light. So your different lines should be the different colors. And that's what you need to know to make the graph for the photosynthesis lab.